All right, everybody ready to go?
Bob, what are you laughing at me for? What a cool week for the Huskies, man. This team came out of last week's ball game against Arizona. I thought put a hard-fought game, a very physical game with tremendous tempo on both sides of the ball, and beat a good football team. Arizona was a veteran group, especially on the defensive side of the ball, made it hard on our offense. Thought our defense, again, just hung tight, hung in there. It's unfortunate we gave up a couple plays in there, but our guys, they just keep doing it the right way. We're tackling so good right now. For Kadeem Carey's longest carry to be 13 yards, 30 times of giving that guy the ball, and we held his longest run to be 13 yards was really tremendous. I thought offensively, with the conditions, and we talked about this Saturday after the ball game, the weather was the weather, and you get into those scenarios as a head football coach, and you lean on the guys you really feel like you can count on the most, and that's why Bishop carried the ball 40 times. That's why Kaysen was back on punts and on kickoff, and was it ideal? No. Did we have to stray from the original game plan? Sure we did. We wanted to be more balanced going in. The weather was the weather, and I thought our guys responded to it really, really well. Again, I want to thank our fans for hanging in there with us because that was some tough elements to brave through, and it was great to get a good win. And we get to go on the road to play Stanford in a tremendous matchup against an excellent football team, very, very well-coached team. That has improved. In my opinion, they're a better football team today than they were a year ago. I think they have a lot more variety on the offensive side of the ball, the quarterback, their ability to throw the ball down the field. Defensively, a veteran group, especially up front, with playmakers in the back end. So we have our work cut out for us. I thought all in all, our guys showed up today with a mindset ready to work. We had a good practice here this morning, and get ready to go tomorrow.
Questions?
You mentioned defense and combination of your offensive line and Arizona's defense. This was clearly the toughest rushing yardage that you've had to generate this year. Was it anything in particular, or was it just a combination of those?
Well, I think, I think what balance gives you is an opportunity to create big plays, whether it's in the passing game or the running game. We got a little one-dimensional there for a while. And understandably, I think both sides of the ball, it became just a kind of a ground and pound, and you're running up in there, and that makes it a little bit easier on the defense. We were able to hit some big plays in the passing game because of our ability just to keep running the ball, but in a perfect world, we're a little bit more balanced. That creates some more running lanes for our guys to hopefully create some more yardage.
Sark, your thoughts on Lane Kiffin and USC?
Yeah, my first thoughts are I'm kind of glad you asked so we can get the giant elephant out of the room here. I probably should have addressed it myself, but my first thoughts are with Lane and his family and Layla and those kids. That's a hard thing to do. Those kids had to get up this morning and go to school, and that's hard. We're real people, and I know we're figureheads in a sense because we're coaches, but our wives and our kids live real lives, and they deal with it more on a day-to-day basis than we do. So my first thoughts are to them. I'd say on another front, to switch gears a little bit, I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity that I have to be the head football coach at the University of Washington. I'm thankful to Mark Emmert, who's not here now, to Scott Woodward, to Mike Young, in this community that I get to be part of and my family gets to be part of. This is an awesome place to be. And I have never once, and I will never, comment on hypothetical scenarios. And I know that that's the world that a lot of us in this room live in, and that's your job to do. I understand that. But I've never done that in the 4.5 years that I've been here, and I won't do that. I have great respect for USC and what the rich history and tradition that they have, but I'm proud to be the head football coach of the 15th ranked team in America right now, and all the hard work that we've put into this program for the last 5 years to get to this point, to be in an awesome matchup on national television Saturday night against a national championship contender in Stanford, and that's where my focus is.
Have you or or any of your reps been contacted by UNC?
With your name being linked, are you worried that it might become a distraction to your team at all?
You know, it's been awesome. I talked about this with the team today. We've been on this zero distractions kind of mantra since the offseason, getting ready to open up Husky Stadium, and I've been talking to them about it. So this was a cool opportunity for me this morning to go into our team meeting and use it from a personal standpoint, and for them too. Those kids are sitting at home in their dorms or in their apartments, and they're watching ESPN too. And so this is a great chance for us to really show and prove that there are zero distractions. We're focused on the task at hand, and the task is a big one this week, and that's playing Stanford.
So do you actually bring it up to them and say, we're not going to let this be a distraction, or do you just ignore it with the team?
No, I bring it up to them. That's how we are. We're a very close-knit group. We're a mature group. We openly talk about things, and I think that we're in a good place to do that right now as a football team and as a football program. So I think when you ask them about it later, they'll give you the same response. You know, we've been open about it.
Sticking with distractions, ESPN's come out and said that if you win on Stanford, they want to bring game day here the following week when you play Oregon. Does that add any extra pressure or any extra excitement for your players?
Game day is not going to help us beat Oregon in 2 weeks, so it doesn't really matter, quite honestly.
Sark, given you just played BJ Danker, and then you've got another athletic quarterback, is there any crossover in their styles or approach that you can take from playing a guy like Danker to try to stop a guy like Hogan?
Well, Hogan, he's a little bit more bigger physical runner. Danker was really fast, you know, and that was our concern, that he would out-leverage us, and he did it on the one run to get him down to the 1 yard line. I mean, Shaq is the most athletic defensive player we have, and he out-leveraged Shaq and outran him to the 1. So they're different in that style. I think Hogan can really throw the ball down the field some too, and that's presents its own issues for us. So, you know, you go back to Shieldhouse, you go back to Southwick, who was an athletic guy who ran on us in the bowl game. Shieldhouse was an athletic guy, Danker last week, and now here comes Hogan. So I think that this is just college football right now, that we have to be prepared for quarterbacks that can do multiple things, that can throw and can run, and you have to defend everything.
In the first 3 quarters of the 4 Stanford games, they've only given up 36 points. Talk about their defense overall, Stanford.
They're a veteran group. They guys have played a lot of football. They are disciplined. They've been in that scheme for quite some time now, so they know the nuances of the scheme. They play it extremely well. They're obviously talented. They're big physical guys up front, athletic in the back end. They've got tremendous leadership. Shane Scove is a tremendous leader for that defense. And I think they have belief, you know, when you do really well, you gain more belief in what you do, and I think they believe they're really good on defense, and ultimately they play that way. They're tough.
Coach, when you got here, one of the biggest things that you had to do was change the culture, you know, teach these guys how to win. I mean, I'm down on the sidelines, and you talk about no distractions. They seem to embrace the rain. When I'm down there, they seem to have a swagger, and it's not the false swagger and, you know, false bravado to try to convince yourself. Can you talk about how far that's come, maybe the personality of this team?
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. You know, I go into team meetings on Monday mornings now, and I don't feel like I have to pump up the team or pump up the game. I think we have a unique, quiet confidence about us. It's not arrogance. It's not that way at all. It's just a quiet confidence that I think our guys have a real sense of belief in one another. They have a real sense of belief in the schemes that we're running. They have a real sense of belief in the other side of the ball. Our offensive players believing in the defensive players believing in the offense. This is the best it's ever been for us in this time, and it takes time to get to that point. I had a couple of guys speak in the team meeting this morning, and it was Keith Price, Will Schamberger, and actually DeAndre Goodwin, who's a graduate assistant for us, because those guys were with us in year 1, and here we are in year 5, and I wanted them to express to the rest of the room the difference of how they feel today as opposed to how they felt 5 years ago coming to a team meeting on a Monday morning. And there were some really cool, unique remarks that hopefully, you know, because I don't want to forget where we came from. And I've really felt like we've built this program the right way, and we've come a long, long way to get to this point. And granted, this is in everybody's eyes, this is a really big game for us Saturday night, but the reality of it is we're not going to change, and we're going to prepare the way we prepare, and we're going to embrace the process, we're going to embrace the opportunity, and we're going to have fun doing it.
Some WSU players remarked that they were maybe a little surprised by how often Stanford threw the ball, especially in the first half. Is that a dimension they have that maybe wasn't quite there last year when you played them?
Well, I think when Stanford has been really good, and when they had Andrew Luck, when they were going then, they threw the ball quite a bit. I remember coming here a couple years ago, and it was one of those rainy, cold, windy nights. In the first play of the game, Andrew Luck threw a deep corner route on us for a big completion, and they threw the ball the whole first quarter in the rain, and kind of got us a little disoriented and got after us pretty good that night. So I think when they're at their best, they're throwing the ball, and you can't go into the game thinking they're just this one-dimensional, a bunch of tight ends and linemen, and they're going to run the ball. They've got balance, they've got speed on the outside. Ty Montgomery, Michael Rector, those guys on the perimeter, they can really run. So they're going to tax you in all phases. So you have to defend everything. You can't go in thinking this is just goal line football. That's not the way they play, and that's not the way they play when they're at their best.
Does that change anything, Sark, in terms of what you can take from last year's game?
We're both different teams. We're new teams. You have different personnel. I think the biggest thing we take out of last year's game is we know the personnel, and we can talk about the personnel, but we're just so drastically different on both sides of the ball that we're just gathering information and now trying to apply it within the game plan.
Stanford's been kind of the one team that's been able to slow down Oregon's pace. Do you look at what they've done versus Oregon this week as to get ideas of how to address?
Sure. No, we looked at it. We looked at it at length, and they did a great job last year at Oregon, defending them and not minimizing the big play. I think Mariota had a big long run early, but they minimized the big play after that. Oregon had some success against them in previous years on offense, and Stanford had success against them on offense as well. They had some shootouts, but last year was a little bit different. So we have looked at that film, and we'll continue to look at it just so that we're aware of some of the their defensive schemes that they like to play.
Sark, how has David Shaw kind of imposed his identity on this team to kind of make them different from what Harbaugh was doing?
Well, I have a great deal of respect for David. He's a tremendous football coach. He's a good man. He does a tremendous job with that program. I think offensively and defensively, their schemes are their schemes. And they've carried those schemes together. He and Jim, and then Jim is now taking them on to the Niners. And the schemes are one thing. I think where David has really improved the program is in recruiting. I think they do a tremendous job in recruiting of identifying guys that fit their program. Big-time athletic players that maybe they didn't get in the past. They're identifying those guys, and they're recruiting the heck out of them, and they're hard to beat in recruiting. So I think that's probably the biggest impact David's made is on the recruiting front.
Steve, back to your fifth-year guys, the rest of the team, what was the reason for the timing now as opposed to later or earlier or whatever?
I think that the timing was just about – I didn't want us to – sometimes you can get into these games as a player and you feel like, well, we've arrived, we've made it, because we're on a nationally televised game against a top 5 opponent, and you miss the fact of we still have to go play the football game, and you have to prepare really well and do all the little things to get ready for that ball game. So I wanted to send a little bit of a reminder of where we started and the hard work that's been put into this to get us to this point. And that hard work is what's going to be that gets us beyond this point. And so I didn't want to lose sight of that. And so I just felt like the timing was right.
How do you approach Bishop's workload this week, and how has he been, the last couple of days, just recuperating from?
He looked good today. I mean, he was a little bit sore, but he looked good today. Again, as I said, ideally, 40 carries is not where we want to be with the guy, but you do what it takes to win the game. And I felt like that's what it took the other night based on the elements and the way the game was going. And as I said, he was just an absolute champion about it and handled himself beautifully.
How do you feel on that same score about Jesse and how he's come along and what he can contribute to?
I think Jesse was tremendous. He continues to get better and better. I think his football conditioning is really good right now. I would venture to say you'll see more of Jesse in the future on offense. What goes unnoticed is how good he is on special teams. He's a phenomenal player on special teams for us. When he runs down on kickoff and just knocks the crud out of guys, and he does so much for our football team that I know we just look at the carries, but he's on the field quite a bit for us.
So was there anything that showed up on the film Sunday that maybe impressed you and feel like you can build upon that maybe you didn't see post-game?
Two things jump out at me. One, Travis Coons deserves an MVP award. I mean, 5 punts inside the 20 under those conditions, some of the snaps because of the weather. I mean, he's jumping up, catching the ball, putting the ball inside the 10. I thought Travis deserves an award just for his performance. And I know Coach Wilcox brought him into the defensive team meeting this morning and praised him and had the defense applaud him. You know, when you're pinning opponents deep, it makes the life of a defensive coordinator and our defense a lot easier. So that was one. Two, I thought Sean Parker played a really good football game the other night. He was fantastic. He tackled really, really well. The interception that he makes, Sean is playing really good football, and sometimes he goes unnoticed because of some of the big-name guys on defense. But I thought he's been playing really well for us this year, and Saturday night was no different. I thought he played phenomenally.
Anything else, everybody?
How much is an outlier is Stanford's offense? They just seem like they're so different when you're facing so many up-tempo spread teams, and they present defensively. How much do you really have to change for this week?
Well, what's interesting about Stanford on offense is they have the big old linemen, they bring in the 7 or 8 offensive linemen, they line up in the I formation, run the power and the counter. They do that. But now when you watch them, they have a lot of the principles of the same plays that we run or the same plays that Oregon runs or the same plays that other people are running. So I think it's a credit to David. He's not just running what they've always run forever. They're running plays that other people are running too. They run fly sweep. They run zone read. They're still doing all that stuff too. So that's what makes them difficult is they have so much offense that where do you spend the time to prepare to get ready for them?
Health-wise, everybody's fine?
They look good. I thought the guys looked really good today. Again, I knock on wood. I don't know if that is, but I knock on wood because we've just been in a really good place and we're in excellent condition as a football team. I think it shows. It showed the other Saturday night again in the second half. I think our conditioning is phenomenal right now, and we haven't had any of the big injuries. So hopefully we can stay that way.
Sark, going under center for the first time this year on Saturday, was that something specific to the game plan? I know you obviously had that in your playbook in the past, or was that something that you were trying to figure out where to use?
We've had that in. We've actually had that in since training camp. We just didn't really need it up until that point. You know, we just felt like the timing was right to utilize it in that scenario on the goal line against Arizona. We could very well see it again in the future. You know, I mean, it's a part of our offense that we have available to us. I think it's a good change-up for us. I think our guys are comfortable running those types of plays out of that huddle scenario. They probably welcome it. They get a chance to take a deep breath and catch their breath before they have to run the next play. But it is at our disposal. It wasn't a one-time thing. It is part of our offense.
Have you been able to stick with whatever plan you had at the beginning of the year as far as resting guys, moving guys in and out? You're running all these plays now.
We're a work in progress there. I don't think we've been perfect in our substitution patterns. Again, we're 4 games into a new system that we're still fine-tuning and tweaking things within it. I think we'll get better at really subbing our players, but to our guys' credit, man, they're in great condition, you know, and it's hard to take a guy out if he doesn't look tired. But I think we can do a better job of that in the near future of substituting players earlier in the game on the offensive side of the ball.
Feel a little better about being able to do that given your growing depth and things like that?
Oh, I love our depth. It's just a matter of putting guys in and giving them chances to play.
Well, good. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys, thank you.